Well, my name is Daniel Becker. I'm originally from Newark, Ohio. I went to high school in the Detroit area, and I first became interested in this topic that, like so many others, watching In Search of as a child and seeing the Patterson Gimlin film. That was also reinforced by a story that I heard from my grandmother, who grew up in the hollers of Kentucky, where there was a Bigfoot in her area back in the country that would steal vegetables from the garden. And so, In Search of, coupled with my grandma's story, is what really got me started on this long road.
So have you had an encounter yourself?
I have I've caught the tracks. I've gotten uh, a picture in the grid shooting, and I had a sighting where it appeared that one was kind of peeking out from a tree, kind of swaying back and forth, but I couldn't positively identify it. But that's about as close to the actual sighting that I got to in that case.
So would you consider yourself a researcher? Do you go out and look for these things?
Yes, I have two partners, William Lunsford and Stephen Hill, down in Arkansas, and we have been out. They've been kind of my mentors in this whole research area. So we have a research area down there we call Ground Zero, which is basically the what I call the Amazon of Arkansas. These woods are so thick, and you could literally disappear in them. So we've trekked through there time and time again. We found tracks all over the place. We have uh, game cams set up. We have cameras in brush piles, and this is a very remote area. And so there's a lot of activity going on out there. And our game cameras and our hidden cameras are catching stuff all the time. So the last trip down there, I actually heard vocalizations for the first time. I actually got to hear one scream, and that was a pretty fascinating experience.
I can imagine that would be very exciting, especially if you haven't heard that before. What did it sound like?
So the call didn't sound aggressive at all. I'd heard different accounts about, earth-shattering, fearful screams, but that wasn't one that I heard. What I heard and how I interpreted it was, "Hey, I'm here." And you could hear it. It was actually in the middle of the day, and it was in another area of the forest. And again, our research area is very remote and snake infested. There's nobody out there, and so, like I said, I didn't interpret that scream as aggressive at all, thankfully. But in our research area, that we do believe there are some creatures that are more on the aggressive side. So we try to steer clear of those.
I can understand why. Do you what is your goal with going out there? Is it just to see them, or to, what are your major goals there?
So our major goals as a team is to prove the existence of this creature. We know it's there. Lots of people know it's there. So that's our goal. It's not to get the $1 million shot. It's not to get our names anywhere. It's to help in some small part to prove the existence of this creature, which we know exists. It has been an adventure. Every time we go out is an adventure. We're finding new tracks all the time. Our game cameras are picking up things that we know are Sasquatch, and then other things that we can't explain. So we believe that back in our research area, there are cryptids back there that we just have no answers for. Just some fascinating photos we've captured and things we just can't explain.
Let's go into that a little bit. What you captured on that trail cam. Like what type of images?
So our game cams pick up everything from we've caught things with teeth, pulling the cameras off the tree. We've also caught images of what many would refer to as dogmen. And for me, with the dogman phenomena, I wasn't quite sure about the existence of that creature until things started showing up on our game cameras and also our hidden cameras that we hide in brush piles that meet the description that we've heard so many times from other researchers. So we've had creatures that look like dogmen. We've had creatures we just don't know what they are, hybrids of some sort, things that we can't explain. So we have a strategy that we use in our research areas, and we call it the 5 T's of Sasquatch research. And number one is tracks. It's not only looking for the Bigfoot tracks and the tracks of other possible cryptids in that research area, but it's also knowing the tracks of the animals that inhabit that research area. So it's very important that you know your research area, know what wildlife is out there, know what possible food sources are out there, and pay attention to those tracks in addition to your cryptid tracks. The second one is trees, looking for the tree structures and looking for the tree breaks. And for us, not everything that we see with a tree break, we automatically assume is a Sasquatch or another cryptid. We take a look at it, we analyze it, we see if there could possibly be other explanations for tree breaks. But it's also, there's a lot of accounts of Sasquatch being in trees sometimes. So it's remembering to look up, not just looking for the tree breaks, but remember to look up. Number 3 is trails. It's knowing the game trails in your research area. Knowing also, one of the things that Stephen and William taught me, in addition to looking for the game trails, is also looking for trails that could have possibly been made by a large predator. Me being in Alaska, I'm pretty good at spotting where a bear's stomped through. But they taught me to capitalize on that knowledge and also to recognize where wild hogs have gone through or another large animal may have gone through. So it's looking for those trails. The next one is time, knowing the times where Sasquatch are more active in your research area, knowing the times, knowing the seasons. Is it in the morning? Is it at night? Is it, as you gain more experience, you're going to learn these times of where more activity is taking place. Another one is technology. Technology, the creatures are crafty, so you have to be too. And like I said, we have game cams, but we also have cams that are hidden in brush piles and hidden other places. And it's aiming your camera angles to cross check each other. It's also we're always trying to break new ground in some way, and a lot of researchers are now getting into this. And it's drone usage. We on the last trip down, we introduced drones into our research activities. So with the also with the technology, as you have heard with many other researchers, there is a phenomenon where cryptids allegedly interfere with the signals of cameras and drones, etc. And so we all decided, well, we've heard about this phenomenon. We need a term for this. So William and Stephen and I started calling it CEI, which is cryptid electronic interference. And on the last trip, we've had it with our cameras before, but on the last trip when we used 2 different drones, and these are high-end drones, both of them experienced CEI over our research area. So a lot of the video that I was taking and a lot of the photos that I was taking, none of them came out. So we believe that that was the result of cryptid electronic interference, or CEI. It's not unusual to possibly have issues with one drone, but to have issues with both drones was rather interesting. Like I said, a lot of the video and the photos that I took from the air didn't come out over our research areas, and I really have no explanation for it, as they're working fine up here in Alaska now.
Did you have any other devices that had issues, like phones or anything like that?
No, I did have we did have another researcher on the phone with us while we went through the woods, and that's her name is Robin McCrae, and we had some interference on the phone as we went through the woods with her, but that could have been just caused by signal degradation as we went through. But having that technology there is, like I said, the creatures are crafty, so you have to be crafty too. So we've been fortunate enough, especially in those hidden cameras in the brush piles, to catch some activity as well.
Describe some of the activity you've managed to capture.
We've managed to capture a lot of what looks like walk-bys. We've captured moments where other cameras are ripped off the trees. I think I might have sent you one photo where there's a close-up of some teeth. That camera was actually torn off the tree and thrown in the distance. And that's another thing they've done. They've ripped our cameras down and tossed them. Sometimes we have to go searching for them. But we've also captured some images of alleged Sasquatch peeking around other brush, hiding in brush, things like that.
So ideally, if a camera were to capture something, would it just be a full-blown clear image?
Oftentimes they're not. You've probably heard the term blob squatches. So
Yes.
yes. So blob squatch is another phenomenon, that we can't really explain. We've had some photos that obviously their definition is greater than others, but unfortunately we've captured a lot of blob squatches too, and also things that we can't positively identify. But we've been fortunate that because we're constantly checking the cameras and changing the cards out, we've been fortunate enough to get some good shots.
Do you have any other pieces of evidence at this time other than what you've got on the cameras, and then some of the did you have any thing that would have DNA or anything like that?
We haven't got into that area yet. That is probably an area we're going to get more in the future and explore, but we haven't done anything into that area as of yet.
How about the orbs and all of the kind of unusual phenomena that is sometimes associated with Bigfoot? Have you experienced any of those or any of that?
I have not, but my partners have. And on some of the images that we've gotten, there have been orbs that have come on that. My partners down there have experienced that. They've actually seen them. I haven't personally seen that, but again, it's something I'm always on the lookout for. And as you know, it's reported amongst many cryptid researchers as being in the area where Sasquatch is often present.
Yes, it is. How about what do you think of those structures? Now, you've seen some of the structures, I presume, out there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, when we come across this tree structure, we are trying to eliminate natural phenomenon first. But some of the tree structures we've encountered in our research area are just obvious Sasquatch creations. So I mean, the wood is so thick that it's literally just been twisted and braided together, and you go through your process of elimination, and once you've eliminated all the natural environmental conditions that may have caused it, you're left with that. And like I said, when we come across a tree structure, we're trying to eliminate the environmental conditions first, but some of them are so obvious that there's just no question. I've seen them twisted, I've seen them braided, I've seen massive trees moved over where nothing else around it is down. So it's always fascinating every time we go out there and we come across these new tree structures. So I highly encourage people that are just getting into the research to really take a look at those trees, and that's one of the reasons we have trees in our 5 T's of Sasquatch research.
So what do you think the structures are about? What do you think they're trying? Are they communicating? Is it some form of shelter? What all have you discovered in the structure field?
Well, as you know, opinions vary on that. I believe that they are everything from, hey, don't come this way, you're in our territory, to we've seen some that almost look like sentry outposts where there's a guard for the clan. Others, I believe, are directional messages to other Sasquatch and other parts of the clan, where possible food sources are, where possible water sources are. But that's mainly what I think regarding those tree structures. Anything from warning to guard posts to food sources to communication. That's where I believe those tree structures come in.
What do you think these things are?
Again, lots of theories out there. One of the things I tell people is, if anybody tells you they know what it is, I wouldn't buy into that. The truth is, as you know, nobody knows for sure what it is. So we've kind of listed 5, again, another list of 5 theories that are quite popular. So one would be, the first one on our list is North American primate. Large faction of researchers believe this is a North American primate. And there's a lot of evidence that could support that. Number 2, many people believe that there's a Nephilim connection from Genesis 6, that these creatures are a watered down hybrid version of the Nephilim from Genesis 6, and people often describe their size and strength as being evidence of that. Number 3, you have that group of researchers that believe that this creature is an extraterrestrial. A lot of people believe that theory. Number 4, an interdimensional creature of some kind. The Bigfoot research community is very interesting because you encounter all of these different groups that believe different theories, and that's great, as long as people are respectful of each other. Number 5, many believe that this creature is a hybrid of some sort, a human hybrid. So so North American primate, a Nephilim connection, extraterrestrial, interdimensional being of some kind, and some type of hybrid or human hybrid, or a hybrid of several of other things on the list there. Could possibly be. Me personally, I'm kind of caught in the theory of between North American primate and Nephilim connection. That's where I kind of fall. I haven't quite made up my mind, but the important thing is, no matter what theory someone subscribes to, the important thing is that we be respectful of other people's thoughts and opinions and research. And we have enough on our hands dealing with people outside the house that want to scoff and mock us for our beliefs. And we don't need to to fight on the inside of the house.
What do you think in terms of giving these 5 different theories of what these creatures possibly could be? What do you think the ramifications would be if it were introduced into society that it was indeed one of these, of the 5?
I work for a unnamed government agency, and several years ago, I was talking to somebody who was pretty high up in another government agency who has to do with a lot with forestry and that area. And when I attempted to question this individual about the existence of Sasquatch, I could not get him to talk. He would look down and he would say, "I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it." I tried and tried and tried to get that information out of him, or a little tidbit of information out of him, and wasn't able to do so. I think that the reason that I think the impact of public disclosure of the existence of these creatures would immediately be economic, especially with forestry and the paper industry. And I think that's the big factor. And also with it would completely alter how we conduct our oversight of national parks and of forest areas. But the public disclosure, I believe, would bring massive economic impact. And I believe that that's one of the reasons that they're not coming forward with information. In addition to that, the fear factor. If they publicly disclose this, people are going to be terrified. They're going to be terrified to go into the woods. They're going to be terrified for their kids. So there's that economic impact and the psychological impact as well.
And if we did find out they were some kind of an interdimensional being and these creatures are coming and going at will, I mean, that kind of shakes up our reality a little bit as well.
Absolutely. Things that were considered myth will immediately become reality, and a lot of people will have a hard time adjusting and dealing with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So you live in Alaska, but you do research in Arkansas, is that right?
I do main research in Arkansas. Up here in Alaska, I'm kind of waiting for the bears to retreat to the high country before I start here again. I had a really bad bear encounter a couple of years ago, so I've been very, very cautious about where and when I go here in Alaska. I am planning on this fall to do some research in Cordova, Alaska, and that's about a 45-minute flight from Anchorage, and planning on going down there. As you know, with Alaska, the Alaska Natives take the existence of Sasquatch, as do most other Native groups, very seriously up here. And so I try to talk to a lot of Alaska Natives and find out their perspectives and their experiences while I'm not researching. But I'll be going out again this fall once the bears start to kind of retreat to the higher country and get back and start doing their den thing, because I just want to avoid any nasty encounters like I've had previously. I'm also planning on doing some stuff in Michigan also in the fall, and getting back to Ohio and looking around Salt Fork State Park there.
You mentioned something about the natives and how serious they take this. What have you discovered of some of their philosophy on this whole phenomenon?
There's many names that the Alaska Natives used for this creature. Some use the word Kushtaka, which and again with the Kushtaka, it depends on who you talk to. Some say it's not a Bigfoot, some say it is. There's another word that's commonly used for it, and I'm probably not going to pronounce this right, but it's the Uriuli, which basically means, if I remember correctly, hairy man. But if you say hairy man, that's the main term in Alaska for Bigfoot. So if you say hairy man, people know what you're talking about. So here in Alaska, there are 20 Alaska native language, approximately 20 Alaska native languages, and most of them have terms for Sasquatch. But like I said, if you say hairy man, that's kind of the universal recognized term up here. The Alaska natives I've spoken to, again, take it very seriously. And to them, there's no question that this creature exists. I was talking to an Alaska Native elder couple recently, who had told me about two sightings that had taken place outside of Dillingham, Alaska, this past winter. And to them, it was just, oh yeah, this happened, no big deal. Yeah, well, I've also talked to elders and up in the Kobuk area, which is far north. And I remember an Alaska Native woman in her 90s was teaching me the word that they had for it. One Alaska Native gentleman told me that they're in the Brooks Range, which is a mountain range that's very far north, and that they will come out of the Brooks Range and come down to the coastal areas to get fish. But one common thing, like I said, one common thing with the Alaska Natives is they take it very seriously. And so you have to be very, very respectful of it.
What do you think they believe this creature is?
Well, according to the natives that I have talked to personally, I know there's varying stories, but for the individuals that I've spoken to, they believe pretty much like I believe, that it's a large actual physical creature. However, there are a few I've talked to that believe it's more on the spiritual side, especially the ones that call it the Kushtaka.
Do they have any other stories about this that you've heard?
The big story in Alaska is, of course, the Port Chatham story, which happened back in the 1940s, where Port Chatham was actually abandoned due to alleged Sasquatch encounters and people disappearing. So we actually have T-shirts here that say "Ask me about Port Chatham," because of those stories. Also, Sasquatch activity seems to be very heavy in the southeast, down in the Ketchikan area, Prince of Wales Island, and other places like that. I've heard accounts of them coming and taking people's fish. I've heard accounts of them coming and banging on the sides of cabins, which is not uncommon to a lot of stories and accounts we've heard from the lower 48, where people are experiencing them coming up and slapping the side of houses. And so a lot of similarities. The ones in Alaska are also said to be more aggressive. So I have heard some accounts of crashing through the woods, breaking things, throwing things, throwing large boulders, throwing large logs, and not liking people very much. One Alaska Native gentleman told me that was scared to death of them because he's afraid that they're going to kill him. I mean, it was that extreme. So Alaska Sasquatch do have a reputation for being a little more aggressive than the ones in the lower 48.
And what do you think would cause that?
I personally believe it's the fact that our population is so sparse up here. They're not many of these creatures are not used to humans being around, and so when humans are around, I think that it's a territorial issue with them, that they become aggressive based on incursions on their territory. That's what I strongly believe.
So what else do you have
Yes.
to talk about regarding Bigfoot? What else have you done? What have you researched? What are you aware of, or just even have a theory about?
Well, again, mentioning the Alaska Native peoples, what the Alaska Native peoples have to say about this phenomenon is highly important, and I'm always looking for different people to talk to get their accounts about what happens up here in Alaska. Yeah, I know what happens in Arkansas. Like I said, that's the main research area, but Alaska is such a vast land, as you know. We have three main mountain ranges: the Brooks Range, the Alaska Range, and the Aleutian Range. And as I mentioned, we have over 20 Alaska Native languages. We have over probably about 228 federally recognized Alaska Native tribes up here, all with their important and valuable accounts and stories. So I'm really going to make an effort in this next 12 months to gather more information from the Alaska Native community, gather more accounts, gather more stories, and try to get some locations nailed down where I can do research in those areas. With so many theories out there about Sasquatch and what could it possibly be, and what do we do next in the field of research to try to prove the existence of this creature? It's very important that to me and my team is that, number one, we don't publicly criticize other people's research, and whatever theories that people have, whatever experiences that they convey, always take it under consideration, and just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it didn't happen. So from everyone who believes in the North American primate to the interdimensional to the extraterrestrial, take it all into consideration, be open-minded, don't publicly criticize other people's research. And again, our goal is to prove the existence of this creature, not to get the $1 million shot. It is a passionate adventure that many of us had undertaken, and a lot of times we're mocked and scoffed for it. But for those that have had an experience will always outweigh someone's opinion. And I'm fortunate enough to have two partners in William Lunsford, Stephen Hill, that I consider generals in the field of Bigfoot research. And they've had those personal encounters and those personal experiences where it's literally altered the course of their lives, and it's very hard to match up against that. So I'm learning more every day in talking to people, getting their stories, getting their theories, getting their accounts, in addition to getting mentored by William and Stephen. There's just so much out there. Alaska is so vast and so still unexplored. Even outside of Anchorage, you can go 5 minutes outside of Anchorage, go in any direction, and not encounter another human being for 900 miles. It's often hard for people in the lower 48 to think of that in today's world, where our world has now become smaller.
That is so very, very true. And yes, I've interviewed William. He's just a wealth of information and such a great personality, and just has had so many experiences. Goodness, he's a great person.
Yeah, he is. Also, just to plug William some more, he recently came out with a book called "Searching for the Unfindable: My Quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot," which is now available. And I highly encourage anyone who's interested in this field to get a copy of that book. He's like I said, one of the field generals in Bigfoot research, and in addition to that, he's just a nice guy, and he's got that Southern wit and humor and charm, and that's part of this book. But highly encourage people to pick that up, in addition to some other great books out there that people have. But also for people that are getting into this field and have interests, try to find get out there online, find a researcher that you can connect with and learn from them. And having a mentor in this area has been a fantastic. Having two mentors for me has been fantastic, and I highly encourage people to find a mentor that can teach you. And I've been very fortunate with William and Stephen that I've just have a wealth of knowledge thanks to them. So find a mentor.